Can you change your listing agreement?
Well, there are blanks in there that you can change. Okay, and so there's some things, but some people get into the nitty gritty and they like to change some of what is written into the contract besides the blanks. And people need to know that the listing agreement is written in conjunction with the North Carolina Association of Realtors and the North Carolina Bar. So same thing with the offer to purchase. So there are things that we need to figure out. Like we need to figure out who the seller is, and you think that would be pretty straightforward. But North Carolina is what is known as tenancy of the entireties, and people will say, "Oh, I bought that before I married her," or "Oh, I inherited that. That has nothing to do with my husband." No, it's if you wish to sell real estate and you're married, you need spousal permission. The saying that we have in North Carolina is one to buy, two to sell. You can go out there and buy whatever you want, but if you're married and you want to sell property, you need that. So technically, nitty gritty, the spouse doesn't have to sign the listing agreement, but they have to sign the deed. So they're going to need to be involved in the process. So it's best practice. So we need to figure out who the seller is, and people can't modify that. The seller is the seller. A lot of people will try to be cutesy and come up with these LLCs, and if the deed's not in the LLC, that's not who's selling the property. We need to address what we are selling. And I know that seems like real simple, but especially with land, people try to sell ideas. And they're like, "Oh, Eric, I have this 10 acres. I think there's 3 or 4 acres on the other side of the creek. That's what I want to sell." We can't sell ideas. We have to have actual property. And you could mark it out, and you could have a surveyor come out there, and it doesn't have to be recorded, but then you're getting into a lot of different situations. We don't know whether or not that the way you're subdividing it is acceptable to the county.
What are some of the other things that people want to change about a listing agreement?
They want to change the commissions. I mean, nobody likes how much we charge, and there's a lot of commissions. That's fine to do. I'm all about negotiations. If you have a multi-million-dollar property, I'll work with you. If you have something that's on the highway, I'll work with you. So people want to change the commissions. What I don't like is when we try to change the commissions afterwards. So I sign you on for 10%, and we're at $100,000, and you get an offer for 90. Yeah, I'll do it, but you got to reduce your commission. No, I mean, I'm not doing that. We have the commission discussion now at the time of the listing agreement. I don't wish to negotiate that number when we're in the midst of negotiations. The other thing that people need to realize is that this listing contract is a contract. It's a contract between the firm and the seller, and there are certain obligations. So when people say, "Yeah, Eric, sorry, I changed my mind." Well, that's great, but I have paid administration costs, I've paid MLS costs, I've paid for drone photography, I've paid a professional photographer, I may or may not, there's my, so there should be in there with your clients a release amount or something to negotiate. But at the very least, you have to have a conversation with the seller. Look, on a standard listing, I'm going to have about $1,500 in it. On something bigger, more expensive, I might have $2,500 in it. There are some properties that I invest $5,000 to $10,000 in marketing and videos and everything that we're doing. So it's not just we changed our mind. There could be some fees involved, and hate to be mean about that. I always want to work with my clientele, but there's money in, and people need to be aware of that. And the last thing is, like, when people read the contract, I think they don't realize that if they strike something out of it, this contract is like a well-balanced machine. So if you take and strike something out from another area, it can offset something unexpectedly in another area of the contract. We're certainly not allowed as real estate agents to modify it. The seller is allowed to modify it. But if I just have to say up front and being real blunt here, if I have a seller that is going through and wordsmithing and striking out words or adding stuff to the contract, that's probably not the kind of client I want to work with. If you're being that picky on the front end, I'm okay with being detail oriented. There's nothing wrong with detail, but I don't like messing around with a contract, a listing contract that's already been approved by a bunch of attorneys and the North Carolina Association of Realtors.
You have any recent examples of somebody trying to change a contract?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, they'll modify things as far as, I don't have to have my spouse to sign. I can't. That's the law. I can't change that. I'll have people strike. There's a section in there where if I bring you a buyer, and then the real estate listing expires, and then a week later you sell them to those people, I still get paid. That's fair, right? And people will try to strike that out. I'm not paying you. Once it expires, it expires. No. If a buyer comes in the last week, and I'm the one that brought the two parties together, I deserve to get paid. So that's that kind of stuff, the small modifications.